They said I wasn't ready, that I had to wait, obey, earn it. They wrapped chains in gold and called them tradition. They bound my fists with patience and smiled. As they locked every door I was meant to walk through, they taught me loyalty while digging pits beneath my feet. They trained me in silence, but whispered my failure behind closed doors. I bled in silence while they dined in peace. I fought battles for a kingdom that never had a place for me. They saw my hunger and feared it, so they called it recklessness, disguised their fear as wisdom, fed me crumbs and called it discipline, starved me of power and called it patience. They told me to wait my turn, but kings don't wait. Conquerors don't beg. I was never one of them, just a tool, a shadow, a name on a leash. But the leash snapped, the silence shattered. I wasn't carved to kneel. I wasn't molded to serve. I wasn't raised to lead. I was born to conquer. I tried to be what they wanted, polished, predictable, silent. I wore their smile like a muzzle, sat in their rooms and shrank myself into shadows, nodded at lies, clapped for weakness, lowered my voice so their ego could breathe. I bit my tongue until it bled truth, swallowed their commands like poison, and they expected me to thank them for the taste. They thought silence was surrender. It was strategy. They thought I lacked fire. But fire doesn't beg for wind. It waits for oxygen. And I waited. Waited while they crowned each other kings. Waited while they sharpened words like daggers and smiled. Waited while they dressed cowardice in ceremony and called it leadership. But inside, something moved, something ancient, a storm waking beneath bone, patient, focused, inevitable, while they played kings. I studied the shadows, while they built their palaces. I mapped their escape routes, while they laughed. I listened to their cracks, their flaws, their fears. They were too busy ruling to notice they'd taught me everything. They thought silence was my cage. They didn't realize it was my forge. Because silence isn't surrender, it's preparation, and I've prepared enough. Now, I speak with storms. There was no throne meant for me, only chains, polished with lies, wrapped in ceremony, drenched in false promises. They dressed denial in rituals, clapped when I bowed, smiled when I fell in line, and I played the part. But every command they barked, every hollow sermon they preached, taught me something. They trained me to follow, but in doing so, they showed me how they rule. Their lessons became blueprints, their routines became maps, and their arrogance, it lit the path they thought I'd never walk, because a pride blinds them. And in their pride, they revealed every weakness, every crack, every fracture in their golden cage. They thought the walls they built would hold me. They forgot what I was forged in. Fire doesn't wait for permission. It spreads, it consumes, and I was born from fire. They looked at me and saw a prince, someone who would wait for inheritance, someone who would bow when summoned, someone tame. But the mask cracked, and underneath, they didn't find a prince. They found a weapon, sharpened in shadows, silent, precise. And now I move like silence before the avalanche, not seen, Not stopped, not questioned, only felt. When everything around them breaks, I don't want their crown. I melted it. I don't want their throne. I set it ablaze because I was never meant to fit inside their frame. I was the crack in the foundation they ignored, the misstep in their rhythm, the storm they thought would pass. But I didn't pass. I stayed. I grew. I consumed. They made their system airtight, but forgot about the fire beneath it, forgot that pressure creates something worse than rebellion. It creates clarity, ruthless, unapologetic clarity. They built a table and told me to wait for a seat. I built a war and flipped the board. Leadership was a role they passed like a family heirloom, a game of names, of handshakes and favors, of cowards dressed in velvet. But I'm not here to lead their sheep. I don't speak in lullabies. I don't ask for silence. I demand storms. I am not their failure. I am their reckoning, because while they crowned themselves, I crowned my fury. While they hid behind titles, I carved mine in thunder. I was built in silence, sharpened in storms, tempered in betrayal. They thought I'd follow. I learned to devour every chain, every rule, every man who stood in my path. So let them lead. Let them smile for the cameras. Let them dance for the crowd. I am not their leader. I am their consequence. Let them lead their sheep. I'll command the storm, because I wasn't raised to lead. I was born to conquer. Do you hear it? That silence, that stillness crawling through your bones. That's not peace. That's me. That's the sound of your gods choking on their own prayers. The silence after empires collapse, after kings beg, after loyalty becomes ash. I am not the storm. I am what's left after the storm kills everything else. I am the breath you hold when the lights go out, the fear you feel when no one speaks. I am the quiet that haunts the throne room long after the crown has melted. You wanted a servant, but you made a sovereign. You buried me in chains, and I forged them into a sword. Every insult, every silence, every locked door became fuel. You fed me dirt, and I grew roots that cracked your kingdom from underneath. You mocked me, dismissed me, underestimated me, but even shadows carry weight. Even echoes break stone. They thought I needed your crown, but I became something more dangerous. I became inevitable. I became the war that shatters kingdoms. I didn't rise to sit at your table. I flipped it, burned it, then made you kneel in the ashes. You built altars to yourselves, but the world will forget your names. When they write legends, they won't write about your rule, your robes, your rituals. They'll write about the silence I left behind, because silence lasts longer than applause. And my name, it echoes louder than your legacy ever will. I don't need followers. I don't need applause, because power doesn't beg. It remembers. It remembers the silence I endured, the chains I broke, the names I buried beneath my footsteps. I don't rule from a seat. I rule from memory, the kind that haunts, the kind that doesn't fade, the kind that outlives crowns and outlasts kings. My victories aren't counted in gold. They're written in the echoes of those who tried to silence me, in the ashes of the bridges they burned, in the fear that still crawls through their bloodline. I turned betrayal into blueprints, pain into prophecy, ashes into empire. They thought they buried me, but I was never the seed. I was the storm. I am not here to be loved. I am not here to be followed. I am not here to be understood, because they will fear what I became, and they'll never understand what made me, because I wasn't a mistake. I was a warning. I speak now not to inspire, but to remind that not every shadow is lost. Some shadows sharpen, some shadows strike. You don't need to see me again. You'll feel me in every silence that follows your lies, in every fire that refuses to die. I don't need monuments. I am the monument. I am the scar that will not heal, the lesson you never wanted to learn. And now I write history with fire, not to be followed, not to be worshipped, but to be remembered, burned into the bones of time, etched into the silence you left behind, because I wasn't raised to lead. I was born to conquer.